Hello YouTube, this is Silver Age Dave, and the other day I was doing some maintenance on some comic books here in my garage, and I mentioned that I bought this collection at a Crackhouse. If anyone was interested in the story, it's pretty crazy, and I'd tell the story. So sure enough, a couple of you it got your attention, and a couple of people said, hey, we want to hear this story, and so I'm going to try to tell it. This is as best as memory can serve. It's a great story, and I've got a couple recreation things I'm going to try to put together. But basically what happened is, let me see if I can find the issue. This guy called me, and I really still... I didn't hang around that long. I still never could figure out how this guy found me or got my number or anything. Like, I couldn't really put it together. It was pretty far away, further than I'd ever driven for comic books. But he basically, these aren't the exact books, but he basically called and he said, hey, I heard you buy comic books, so maybe I bought comic books from someone he knew, or I really have no clue how he figured it out that I buy comics, but he did. And so I said, yeah, and at this point I didn't know anything was going on. And I said, yeah, and he told me where he was. I'm like, man, I normally don't drive that far. And he said, well, I got like 300 comics or more, and most of these are 12 centers, and so we know Silver Age Dave. So I thought, well, heck, I guess I could do it. And it was like my very outside range. And he said, well, do you want me to send you a picture? But at this point, I'm thinking, this is what I like. This is what we live for, right? And he's a little older than me, he said, and I'm thinking, this is great. So I'll just go. Immediately after, he's like, well, I'll send you a picture if you want. And I thought, well, sure, if you want to send me a picture. So he sent me a picture, and this is basically a recreation of what he sent, okay? And the picture, I don't even know how I can make it blurry. It was like really dark. I'm going to click a light out, and we'll see if I can recreate this the way he sent it. See, and it's not even dark enough. It was like this. But it was blurry, and he said, so the picture came like this, okay? And there was more issues, so you really couldn't even see. There was like 9 books straight across, and you couldn't even see what the first book was because it was like off the screen over here. But I recognized this part right here, this little tiny wedge. I knew what that comic book was. And so he sent me that one photo, and I thought to myself, Dave, you're going. And it was going to be a pretty long drive, but like I said, I didn't have any appointments the next day. I called my office manager for my business, and I said, hey, if I was missing tomorrow, would it be, no big deal? And she said, yeah, we can cover it, Dave. So I said, great. So I gassed up, the next morning, hit the road. And from what he had described, I thought, I can't spend a ton of money. I don't know what this guy's got. I know he's got this issue, which runs pretty heavy sometimes, and but I don't really know what this guy's got. And so my plan was, I'll take $4,000 with me, and I looked up. We've got a couple different banks we work with, and I thought, well, if I need to, I'll just take a couple checks and I can run, and I can get more money if it goes crazy. And again, this isn't, my plan was not like that day when that call came in to spend a lot of money, but you never know. And we talked about hunting. I did that ethics question shout out recently, and if you're out hunting, you just never know what you're going to find. So I'm going to flip through a few of these while I'm talking. So anyway, the next morning I happened to, get an earlier start than I thought I was going to get. And, I think I want to create some separation. This is going to be one of the better boxes. The Fantastic Four box is really good. This box is really good. but this will give you an idea of what was in there. So there is a whole box of Thor that came later. So anyway, so I drove up and I got to like the address where he said. I was out in the country. I was out in the middle of nowhere, and there's like this lake, and then there's like all these almost like, I don't know, not even cottagey houses, not even that nice. But I got there and I'm like, I'm on like dirt roads, which, this is just odd, right? So I ended up calling the guy, and let's call him Bill. And I said, "Hey, Bill, is your house a gray one or a white one? Swear as God's my witness, it was like that." And he said, "Well, do you see like any kind of restaurants or anything around there? Like any fast food anywhere?" And I was like, "No, dude, I'm out in the middle of the country." Well, he had given me his address, but he gave me the wrong city. Okay, so go figure. So I should have known at that point, like, this is probably not good. I should probably just skip this whole thing. And so he gave me the city. I'm like, oh man, it's like another 30, 40 minutes. And but I had gone that far, and I'm kind of glad he gave me the wrong city in retrospect, because I wouldn't have driven. And so I drove. I was like, okay, I'm going to be another 30, 40 minutes. I'm worried the guy's going to say, hey, I got to go to work, or, we'll do it another day. And I'm already like, I lost a day already. And so he said, oh, that's fine. He said, just call me when you're getting close and I can walk you in. So, I drive the half hour, and I happen to call a buddy. I'm like, hey, dude, this is kind of weird, but here's what's going on. But still, like, all the excitement. I was still so excited about what was going on. And so we talked a little bit, but then this guy called me again. Like, he called me like a lot of times. And so he called me again, and he's like, hey, are you here yet? I'm like, no, the thing says like 5 more minutes maybe. And because I had MapQuested it, but even then, like, it wasn't coming up an address. It was really weird. So I said, well, I'll call you when I get there, close, and then you can walk me in. He's like, okay. So then I get finally to like this exit, and it says like literally just stop in the middle of the intersection. Like, there was no address that matched it. So I get up. And I'm like sitting at the light. Fortunately, no one's behind me, and I'm just sitting there. That's Daredevil #2, by the way. That's a coverless. And sorry, I'm not paying a lot of attention to what you guys see. I'm just looking through the comics and talking, doing, I guess, 3 things at once. And so I call him. I'm like, Bill, I'm sitting here at the light, and it's saying I'm here, but there's not even any houses. And he's like, oh, okay, well, you're real close. He said, just turn left, and I'll get you to us. And it's you'll see a blue ranch house, and there's fence all around it, and there's some like a couple pole buildings. I'm like, oh, okay, that's odd. I said, but you said the address was this. He said, yeah, but just look for the ranch house with all the fencing around it. I'm like, okay. And, like an idiot. So I'm just driving around. And so sure enough, though, I saw, the best I can describe this, guys, is anyone who's watched the show Breaking Bad, and all the crazy Deadeye guys that end up killing Hank, and they have that compound. And like they've got like the locked fence, and then you go in there, and it wasn't that big, but it was a locked, like a 6-foot fence with razor wire on top of that. And there were all these old buildings. I was like, wow. And so literally, he said, well, hey, I'm not even there yet. I had to run and get some food from, I don't even know what fast food place he went to, but he said, I got to get some food. So just wait for me out front, and I'll get there, and I'll unlock the gates, and I'll let you in. And so I hung up. I'm like, holy crap. And that's when I knew I probably wasn't doing something smart. So I literally, at the time, I took a video of the place, and I sent the video. I texted it to my friend, and I said, hey, dude, this is where you can find my bones. Okay, as God's my witness. And because I thought this is, this is not seeming like it's on the up and up. Like this place doesn't even have an address. And why they got all that fence? So anyway, so the guy pulls up and he gets out of his car, and I'm like, okay, what do I do? Because I'm parked outside the gates now, but I can see that I'm going into some other place, and he's like unlocking it, and I'm like, this is just really odd. So I go in, and I'm like watching him. Like I pull in and he's like walking back towards the gate. I'm like, is he going to lock it? If he locks it, I'm just going to tear my van around and I'm going to bust through the fence. So, turns out he just closed the gate. He didn't lock it. So I was like, oh yeah, this is okay. So we go in the house and it's like, it's cold outside. Well, it's colder inside the house. There's no heat. And he says, well, you just wait here and I got to get the stuff for you. It's in the back, in the back rooms. And I walk in, and it's like this empty kitchen with like nothing in it. There's like a stove, but it's not even hooked up. It's way to the side, and like really like weird stuff. And I'm like, oh man, that guy's going to get a gun. And he probably, lured me here thinking, oh, this guy's going to have cash and I'll just kill him and rob him. And so I looked, like on the counter there happened to be a knife. Like there's nothing in this place, but there's a countertop and there's a knife on it. So I'm like, well, I got to position myself so I'm closer to that knife if something weird happens. And so I'm standing there, and I can see in the next room was probably the dining room at some point in this house, and that's completely empty. And I can see the next room, and that's completely empty. And it is cold as hell in this house. And so, but, I'm like, oh man, Dave, maybe I should just go. And then here comes the guy holding the long box, right? And so he says, oh, here's the first one. And sure enough, it's like, I can see, it's like, it's good. And then so I start looking through them, and he says, well, I'll go get the other boxes. I'm like, okay, it's actually in a long box. I can't believe it. So then he comes back with his wife in carrying long boxes, and now the best I can describe is still Breaking Bad, but now we're going to go to the scene where Jesse is trying to get his dope back from the people that robbed that other dude, and she ends up putting an ATM machine on the guy and killing him. But it's like those people, like those crackhead people, and so I'm like, oh man, when the wife came around, it is like just not the kind of folks I'm used to dealing with. And he kept, so I'm like just flipping through the books, and nothing was really bagged and boarded. Some of them were, but not a lot. And I'm going through the books, and the condition is, you can see from the pictures. I mean, they're nice, but they're not that nice. And he just kept asking about money. And we talk about ethics, and we talk about what the right thing to do is. And I'm in there, and I'm summing up this situation. The guy kept saying, well, how much can you pay? How much can you pay? And, I'm thinking, well, this guy just wants to get down to his junkie, and, and he wants to get his hit for the day. And I found out where he got these books. I did make him tell me the story because I didn't want to be buying stolen books. But he told me the story. I was satisfied with it. And so now I'm thinking to myself, well, heck, I thought I was going to be paying a lot of money, but this is a different situation, okay? Because I don't know about you guys, but I work really, really hard for my money. And the situation changed so drastically, because if I have a person who's trying to make rent and they're working hard and they're making minimum wage, I know what it's like to be a server. I know what it's like to deliver pizzas and try to make ends meet, through college and through all that stuff. So I'm gonna move on. Now the situation was different, because I know where my hard-earned money is going to go. It's not going to go to, to good things. It's going to go to bad things. So, in my own head, I made a spur-of-the-moment decision that I'm just going to offer the lowest amount that I can live with, and be okay with it. And so I offered him that amount, and I don't want to even say what it is, because I mean, if I'm like, I'm not embarrassed at all. We talked about in the ethics thing that you got to go with your heart. Great Legend, had a great comment. A lot of guys had great comments. Rags had a great comment. I mean, all you guys did. And really, when I think back about this, I don't think I was in this guy's house 9 minutes. I mean, literally, I didn't even go through all the boxes. I just wanted out of there. I knew I wasn't in a good place. So I offered him the lowest amount that I thought I could live with, and it was not a lot. And, and then he backed up a little, and he said, well, what's the most you can do? And I bumped it up. I said, well, I could probably do, and I think I added $50 to it. I said, let's just say 50 or 75 more. And his response was, well, if you could do 75 more, let's just do it, and I'll help you load them in the car. And I said, okay with me. And so we went out to the car. I was out of that house. I was so happy to be out of that house. And so, I got the cash for him, and a couple more coverless, but complete coverless. So got to the car. I gave him the money, and we start, I got loaded up, and we're great. I'm like, this is great. And at the time, it was literally just like 2 long boxes and then a short box. Okay, so it gets better. So I leave out of there. I'm like, holy crap. So, I called a friend. I'm like, dude, you're not going to believe it. I don't even know what just happened. This is so crazy. And I mean, and I'm not even thinking I got the best comic book deal in the history of mankind. I'm thinking I'm kind of lucky to be out of there. And I start describing it to him. He's like, oh man, Dave, what were you thinking? And I get maybe 8 minutes down the road, my phone rings, and it's this guy Bill again. He said, Dave, are you on the highway yet? And I said, yeah, I just got on the highway. He said, well, my wife went in the back and she found a couple more boxes of comics. And I think, okay, now's when they're going to kill me, right? Because I got the comics, and they're going to bring me back. But I said, yeah. He said, well, why don't we just meet at Wendy's? And I said, okay. So I get to Wendy's, and this box was sitting in the side of his car, and it was like all these old Thors. And I've got so many old Thors. I hate to even say it. I don't even want any more. But who doesn't want any more, right? So he starts giving me these, and I'm looking through them, and some of these that I'm showing you here were in there, the Nick Fury, and I said, you know what, Bill, I said, I gave you that amount of money, and I said, but I really appreciate you coming down here and doing this. I said, but I want to give you some more money. And so I ended up giving him an extra $50, and it was like 2 more long boxes. Now, a lot of these are bronze, and I love bronze, so I'm going to rebag and reboard all these bronze. These things have been just sitting forever. And like these were in there. The other day I made that video and I was talking about, 337, I think, or 338. I forget which one. Probably 338. So, it was just a great collection, and it was just the craziest of stories. But I'll tell you what, guys. Had I had any idea, had it laid out any differently, even though it was an awesome collection to get, I can't see myself ever putting myself in that situation again. So the Silver Age Dave moral here is know where you're at. And I always pride myself, when I'm driving a car, I always have an exit strategy. In my life, I always have an exit strategy. And I got into that situation. It could have been a house full of dudes that, did want to rob me. And I didn't have a weapon. I didn't have any way to protect myself once I walked in. Even that little knife on the counter, that wouldn't have helped me if someone came out with a bigger weapon. So that's the story. You guys saw some of the books that I flipped through here. And when I say I paid nothing for it, I really paid nothing. And I sleep great at night in this particular situation. Any other situation, I would have paid through the nose for this collection. This particular one, I felt the circumstances were such that I could walk out of there, and these comics are in the best hands. I'm the guy who should have them. Nothing good was going to happen with them staying there. So that is the Crackhouse story. Sometimes the joke is don't judge me, right? But that's what happened. And I don't know what any of you guys would do if you're in the same situation. I kind of hope that you're not, because that's a risky and bad situation to be in. But that was mine. So that's it. Silver promised a story. It's a 20-minute story. So sorry. But hopefully you saw enough covers and you say it was worth it. So with that, Silver Age Dave is signing out.